I would need to spin 3 times in the shower before getting out, otherwise my brain would tell me that I'm going to get cancer. So that's fun. In this video, I want to talk about my experience with OCD and particularly with intrusive thoughts and magical thinking, as that is what I have struggled with the most. I hope that you'll be able to find some comfort if you can relate to anything that I experience, and we can just be total weirdos together. Magical thinking is the belief that your thoughts, actions, or rituals can influence events in the real world, even though there is no logical connection between them. It's often connected to OCD, where people experience reoccurring and unwanted thoughts and feel the urge to perform repetitive actions or compulsions to reduce anxiety. My magical thinking patterns usually begin from an intrusive thought. These are often unwanted and distressing thoughts that can pop into one's mind without any intention or control. It's actually really common for people to experience them, but I think that a lot of people don't talk about it in fear of being judged by others. If you experience intrusive thoughts, then please know that you are not alone. It is not necessarily a reflection of your character or your beliefs, and actually they usually stem from fears. I used to think that OCD was just about being orderly and organized and washing your hands a lot. I didn't understand how OCD works when it comes to your thoughts. Obviously, there are so many forms of OCD and it is unique to each person. After talking to one of my older sisters late one night when I was a teenager, she helped me see that my thoughts weren't exactly typical. I ended up then getting evaluated, and sure enough, I was diagnosed with OCD and actually ADHD and anxiety all at the same time. Even though I have been diagnosed with certain conditions when I was younger, I have tried not to identify too strongly with them as I've gotten older and as I've done a lot more deep work within myself. I say that because I do think that too often we are just diagnosed with conditions and disorders, and it's very easy for people to become stuck within those labels and feel like the way that they are is permanent and can't be helped. I'm not saying that mental health conditions don't exist, and I'm obviously no expert, but I do just think that there are a lot of reasons as to why we feel anxious and depressed that actually make a lot of sense. I think those reasons largely stem from our childhood traumas, and I think that often people don't even think to reflect back on their earliest experiences because we're not often told enough. And I feel like people don't understand why they have certain coping mechanisms and why they hold certain beliefs or why they have certain difficult and negative patterns of behavior. I still definitely have some OCD tendencies, but they just don't cause as much of a disruption in my life compared to when I was younger. I noticed that it definitely can get worse the more anxious I am, and especially if I have a lot of external factors that are contributing to my stress levels. I think that's actually quite normal, and it usually just takes some time to settle again. It would feel impossible to list all of the things that I used to do when I was younger, but here are some examples. Alright, here we go. This is where things get a bit wacky. I would feel the need to spin in the shower 3 times before getting out for a long period of time. I'd be brushing my teeth and I'd need to say a passage at the same time in my head about how I will live a happy and healthy life, and if I didn't say the passage correctly, I would have to start it all over again. I remember lying in bed at night, and if I had known that I left a towel on the floor in the bathroom, I would not be able to sleep until I got up again and hung the towel up. I would not be able to walk between 2 symmetrical poles next to each other on the street, and sometimes if I was walking along a crosswalk, I'd have to finish on a specific left or right foot. I did all of these things to prevent myself from getting illnesses and dying young. The weirdest thing is that I am fully aware of how irrational these thoughts and behaviors are. I know that whether I do the compulsion or not, it's not actually going to change the outcome of anything. However, it doesn't always stop me from feeling the need to do them. It's like an urge for control, and the anxiety it relieves me from can be too strong. I have definitely gotten much better with my compulsions over time as I have gotten older, but there are still some things that I do. I often have to wish if I see that the time is 11:11, and I will kiss my fingers and blow them into the air just to solidify that wish. See, how cracked am I? I also do weird things, like if I'm watching a show, every now and then I might be like tapping my fingers on my body and spelling out a word that I've heard. It's not even something that I'm conscious of that I'm doing, it's just kind of happening, and then I become aware of it. I'll also, occasionally get an intrusive thought and I'll feel the urge to do a compulsion, and I'll be having like a conversation with myself in my head about the fact that I don't need to do these compulsions, all while feeling just ridiculous. OCD is still very much an underlying pattern to my thoughts. It just goes through many stages of feeling more intense and then feeling like it's not really a part of my life, and it kind of just ebbs and flows that way. It's like I have this ethical form of OCD now, in the sense that it gets me to do things that feel like the right thing to do. For example, I have to put the shopping trolley back in the correct spot in the car park. If I see a piece of rubbish on the ground, I will feel the need to pick it up and put it in the bin. If I have been slightly dishonest with someone in some way, it will push me to tell the truth. It's like this moral thing going on that it gets me to do things that might be difficult to do or that you're not bothered to do. Although it can obviously be distressing at times, there is absolutely no denying that. It's just more manageable for me as I've gotten older. OCD is very complex, and there are a number of factors that contribute to it. I personally think that for myself, and likely a lot of other people, it stems back to my childhood. My environment was often unpredictable and tense, so I can see how this kind of desire for control and not being able to sit with certainty could have developed into something like OCD as I've gotten older. All of my OCD tendencies are tied to my health anxiety, and all of my thoughts and compulsions revolve around my health and trying to control the outcome of my health. That's the difficulty with anxiety, because in reality, we usually lack certainty and lack control with most things in life, and it takes real effort and deep work to find a way to accept that and move through it. I think the best thing that you can do is just to have awareness to start with when you're engaging with magical thinking, and have a reality check. Have compassion for yourself and just remind yourself that really humans are just absolutely bizarre. You are actually wonderfully weird, and I consider being weird to be a good thing, so please just know that you have nothing to be ashamed of. Consider alternative explanations for why things happen, and replace your more irrational thoughts with more realistic ones. Mindfulness techniques can be really helpful to reduce anxiety, as well as other therapies such as CBT, exposure therapy, and acceptance and commitment therapy. There are so many types of therapy out there, and obviously different things help different people. I think that starting to reflect on your earliest childhood experiences is vital when it comes to dealing with any kind of mental health issues. I have touched on the impacts of childhood trauma in other videos, but I really do think that it is just the biggest thing that you can do for yourself when it comes to your own healing and your own personal growth journey. You will start to understand yourself more clearly, and you will realize that so much about the way that you are, your coping mechanisms, your patterns, your beliefs, all of that is largely learned, and it means that it is able to be unlearned, and you can actually change them all for healthier ones. I know it can be really distressing to experience OCD, and obviously everyone experiences it differently on a spectrum. It's definitely felt really overpowering in many moments of my life, and it can feel really horrible. I've only really scraped the surface of my experience in this video, otherwise it could be way too long. Get support for yourself when needed, and try to find a way to use your tendencies to your advantage. I feel like it's helped me quit smoking for over 5 years, because once I was on the streak, I felt like I couldn't undo it and I would never go back. I feel like it allows me to become kind of obsessed and hyper-focused in order to learn things that interest me. If you experience anything similar to me, then please feel free to reach out and comment below, and I would love to chat to you. Please don't be ashamed of who you are and the weird little things that you do, because I think all humans are cracked and weird, and people just don't talk about it enough. Either that, or I'm just a huge weirdo, and that's okay. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next video. Stay hopeful.